Hi, everybody. Will here with this week's interview chair brought to us by the Canine Chronicle TV and Pro Plan. This week on the chair, we have Mr. Paul Lawless from Kildare, Ireland. He's an all-breed judge. We had so much fun. He was over here judging, and I know he's going to be over here a lot more, so I wanted to do some introductions to our area for Paul, but most of us know Paul. So sit back and relax and listen to Paul for about an hour or so. Hi, everybody. Will here with this week's interview chair. And on the chair, we have special guest and friend of the show, Paul Lawless from Kildare, Ireland. How are you, Paul?
Hi, good, Will.
It's good to see you. What's that jersey you're wearing? Is that a football team?
Yeah. I was going to try and spook you and say it was an ice hockey one, but it's actually a soccer one from the UK. It's West Ham United.
When we talked, when you were here in Canada, we talked about, I asked about any hockey teams in Ireland. There's a hockey league in Belfast, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah, and there were some players.
It's not a big thing with us. It's not a big thing with us.
No, but there's a couple Irish guys made the NHL. So.
All right, okay.
Yeah. Owen Nolan was probably the biggest. And your kennel name is Revlock. You and your wife breed Belgian
Shepherds, yeah, Groenendael primarily, but we have had Tervuren and we have had Malinois and also Skipperkeys. So we've done well.
Also what?
Skipperkeys.
Oh, I love Skipperkeys.
Yeah.
Skipperkeys, the same outline, right? It's an outline breed.
Yeah, quite similar. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Skipperkeys. I showed a couple for a lady up here, and I really enjoy the breed. And you're an all-breed judge. When you were just at a big show last weekend, were you judging or were you working?
I was working, yeah. We had our Irish Kennel Club double show weekend. I suppose it would be one of the most famous shows on the Irish circuit, St. Patrick's Day, so it's our national day. Yeah. And I think it's the thing that made it famous all those years ago was that our old licensing laws in Ireland, you could never get a drink on Christmas Day, on Good Friday, and on St. Patrick's Day. And because of the exhibition centre and the hotels had an exemption that you could have a drink at an exhibition centre. So the bar in the venue used to be called it's called the RDS, the Royal Dublin Society, but the bar there used to be packed on St. Patrick's Day, and it wasn't people going to the dog show; it was people just going to find somewhere to have a drink. So that's actually kind of what put Irish dogs on the map on St. Patrick's Day. And it's a famous story about people saying, "Oh my God, what are you doing in here with a dog?" But that's
That's good because it's funny over here in North America. People probably drink more on St. Patrick's Day. Thinking they have to.
We feel we're obliged to, yeah.
So I want to find out about you. You're going to be spending some time in America this year, and a lot of people know you, but some people don't. So I want everybody to know you as much as we can reach out anyway. We're going to beat Linda's numbers, I promise you.
As much as we're allowed to say.
Right. So tell me how it all started, Paul. Tell me how you got into this crazy sport that we love.
Well, for me, it started as a young kid. My brother used to show English
young kid, 2, 6, 10. What age?
I would have been about 10 or 11. In fact, I would have been 11 when I got my first dog. My brother's 4 years older, and he was showing English cockers. Well, my family were showing them, but my brother was the talented one who was able to handle dogs.
Does your brother still show dogs?
He has Bouviers. He has shown, probably not since COVID, but he did very well with his Bouviers as well. So Michael used to show the cockers, and then it was felt that I should put away the soccer ball because I was never going to be good enough to play soccer and take up something that I might be good at. And so I got a black and tan English cocker. It was a famous cocker breeder who lived not too far away from us, called Leo Whistle. Again, a character. And I got this black and tan cocker, Serena Black Knight. He was huge. I mean, he was bigger than me. I look back now and I go, God, that dog could have been a Springer, you know. And so he was my introduction to showing dogs. And then when I got a little bit older, probably 14, 15, then I was given the option of getting something, you know, picking a breed of my own. And I had a couple of Rottweilers for years. And literally, so that's 1980, late 70s, 1980. And Rottweilers were only coming into Ireland at that stage. And then they took off with a boom and, you know. So
my introduction for a while.
Yeah, my introduction to Belgium. I was a little bit unfortunate. I brought Rots in from the UK who had been imported from Germany and supposedly very healthy hips and everything else. And the one I got didn't have healthy hips, so it was a little bit of a downer for me on the breed at the time. So we had. I decided to find something a little bit different, and I imported a Belgian Shepherd Tervuren from the UK in 1985, and then we had our first Groenendael in late 80s from Venistica Kennels.
Were you? Was that when you're saying we? Is that still your family, or is this you've already met your wife? Or?
Yeah, no. I'd met Jean at this stage, and okay. You know. And it was just something that Jean really took to straightaways. She used to come to the dog shows.
Jean is also an all-breed judge as well, isn't she?
Yeah. Jean qualified last year, all breeds.
Yeah, excellent. You have a daughter that started judging as well.
Yeah, Jean is the real judge in the family, but we don't like to tell her that, you know. And,
I get it.
And my daughter Kelly Kelly's judging. She now has two groups under FCI, herding and working.
Okay. Are you all going somewhere? Did I hear that?
We're all
on the same panel?
We have been together on panels. A couple of shows in Ireland, and Jean now. Kelly judges with me, which is a little bit. It makes me feel very old. My daughter is on the same panel. I don't get away with telling people that I'm 40 anymore when my 34-year-old daughter comes along with me.
No, my son just turned 30, and I'm like,
you know.
Oh, that'd be fun. My kids have no interest in the showing aspect of it, but they still like the dogs. But then Jamie will come to the odd dog show with me, and they're all happy to see him. But they all can't believe he's not little anymore. You know?
Yeah. No. My son, so we have two kids. Kelly and Stephen is our youngest, our son, and you know, as a toddler, Stephen would have come to dog shows, and we used to have a class at the small shows in Ireland called the dog I'd most like to take home. Okay,
yeah,
and traditionally, basically, people sent in their kids. You know, you borrowed someone's dog and you sent them in with. You know, and I remember Stephen one time going in, and he was this cute little blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy wearing a little white miniature Aran sweater and nice little cords, and he looked so cute. And somebody had given him a lend of a Bichon, and in he went with the Bichon, and he got placed third in the class. And I went, third? He's gorgeous. How can you put him third? But so I decided, don't get involved watching the kids handling the dogs anymore, you know. But
I know it.
Stephen enjoyed the dogs, but he thinks we're all crazy. He thinks we're crazy.
That's my boys are the same. Yeah. My son stopped showing in junior handling. He was quite successful, but he didn't like it when we'd go watch him in junior handling. Because then he thought, if I won when you were watching, I won because you were watching. So. Well, he stopped watching, and he eventually stopped showing, but he's onwards and upwards now. But I'm sorry, this is supposed to be about you guys. Sorry.
Well, our daughter Kelly would have shown until she was probably about, I'd say she was about 11 or 12 years of age, and then she kind of, I'm not really interested in this anymore. And then a very cute guy came and started handling dogs. And then Kelly came back into the dog scene and she decided to come back. But she actually came back and in fairness to her, everything she did, she trained herself. So she came back as a junior and she was runner-up one year for Top Irish Junior. And then she won Top Junior for the next 2 years.
Oh, wow.
I went away and represented Ireland at Crufts and the World Show.
Oh, that's a good achievement, that's for sure.
But she did it on her own back, which fair play to her, you know.
Yeah. So how did you learn about dogs? Just through your family, or like?
Yeah.
Did you have mentors?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, exhibiting, you watch how people handle dogs, judging. You pick up things from people and judges you see, and you get influenced. In my own breed, in Belgian Shepherds, one of our mentors would have been Vic Salt, who was a very famous UK breeder and judge of Belgian Shepherds and Rough Collies. And, easy to talk to, easy to learn from, easy to pick up on. Not someone who talked down to you, and that I think is one of the really good things about our hobby and our sport, is that most of us are on the same. We keep on the same level. There's nobody has airs and graces about them, and I often say about Harry O'Donoghue, who many people will know in the States, with the famous Blackdale Fox Terriers and other terrier breeds. And my father would have always taught me that you never call anybody by their first name unless you went to school with them. So I would see Harry at shows and go, hello, Mr. O'Donoghue, and he would always be, it's Harry, But again, like when you talk to him, he talks to you, one-on-one. It's even though he has achieved all these things and he's so highly respected, but he's on a level with you. And I suppose at the end of the day, when we go home from dog shows, we all end up picking dog poo up off the ground. So there's no reason for anyone to have airs and graces.
Exactly.
Well, except for Canada, where they can call in the cleaner to pick up the poo.
But not all shows are like that. We have some self-cleaning shows. Sometimes it's just more efficient, because sometimes the handler will hand the dogs to the judge, then go off and find a bag, and everything slows down. So I did
tell that story last weekend at the IKC show, because the first thing that happened on the Saturday morning was this lady came along to me and she said, she says, my standard poodle is after getting sick in the ring, and a little bit of food came up, and I want have I something to clean it with? And I thought, yeah. You've made it, Paul. You're here now. You're right at the top. You're going in to clean up this dog's,
That's cute.
So,
yep, we know we've hit the big time.
Yeah.
So when did you start judging? I'm going to bounce around a bit here.
Yeah. So, so judging started at championship level. It was 1989 was my first appointment.
Did you start off at open shows? Is that what you did?
Yeah. You start. We would have been.
Kind of explain the system to me over there. A lot of us don't know how the system works over there. So.
Okay. So nowadays we have different modules for judges coming through. So the first module is basically rules and regulations. The second module deals with controlling the ring and your procedures and how you control the ring and placing the dogs. Your third module deals with the points of the dog. So you have to learn all the various points of the dog. And module 4 are breed specific. So you'll be required to do breed specific exams before you're allowed to do the breeds. And as you go along, I suppose it doesn't become, you don't do a breed specific on every breed. And sometimes when you're 4 or 5 groups judged, you're just actually required to attend them without maybe doing an exam.
So it's actually a written exam prior, though.
Yeah. And then we are introducing a new module this year, which I think is correct, and that's a health awareness module. So being aware of health issues within breeds. I think it's very important.
No, that is important. That's a good one. I agree with that one. So
yeah.
There's a lot of things that slip by.
Yeah, absolutely. And
then they get memes on Facebook.
Yeah, I think as well the important thing. I'm involved in the Health and Welfare Committee of the Irish Kennel Club, and I think it's important that we become aware, but at the same time, we don't want to become vets either. We don't want our judges to become vets.
Right.
So you don't want someone going in with a stethoscope and checking out your heartbeat, but you want to be aware of eyes. You want to be aware of.
Although we do have some chiropractors.
Yeah. I could do with that myself after the weekend. Don't worry about the dog.
Sorry. All right. So when you started, there was almost all those modules except for the health one. Is that how you started?
Yeah.
And did you just decide to do it yourself?
Sorry, Will. No, the modules, those modules all came in 2016. So I was well on my way at that stage. I was actually involved with the committee that introduced those modules into the Irish Kennel Club. So back in the late 80s, really it was up to each individual how much education they wanted to take on board, how much they wanted to do. If they wanted to talk to breeders, if they wanted to learn that way, if they wanted to go to kennels and visit or whatever. And we had a kind of a set system. So you had a spell of time where you had to do your lower level and you had to be involved in dogs. And then when you had completed that, you would be considered for green stars, we call green stars or CCs. So you'd be considered for green stars in your own breed. So my first breed, being 89, because of my start off with Rottweilers, my first breed to actually do was Rottweilers.
Really?
With Green Stars. And then when you have completed your Green Star appointment and you're going to be assessed, you will then be, if you pass your assessment, after 18 months, you're then considered for 3 further breeds within that group, and preferably 3 related breeds or similar style of breeds. And that's how you go. So a lot of it became dependent on getting an invitation. You could never be passed for something until you actually judged it. It's a little bit different to some systems. So you did your one breed, now you're approved for them. Then you could be considered for 3 more breeds, but you have to wait for someone to invite you to judge it.
So how would they know that you're eligible to be invited, though? Is there a list that goes there that says Paul is eligible to invite Judge Rottweilers?
Yeah, we have a judge's directory. So you can go up and look up a judge on the directory, and you can basically say, okay, he's progressing through the working group at the moment. He's got 1 breed done. He needs 3 more, and that would be the way. And a lot of it, again, is from being actively involved on the show scene. We're quite a small community here in Ireland. So really kind of everybody knows everybody, and word gets around.
It's kind of the same with Canada, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, Canada's a lot bigger.
Well, it's larger, but it's a small community as far as numbers involved. Like we have a lot of area to cover, but actual numbers. Like, what is the average entry at your shows in Ireland?
Our numbers have dropped significantly now since COVID. So, like at the weekend, we had 1,300 dogs on the first day and 1,200 dogs on the second day.
So we wouldn't get. Well, I can't remember the last time we had a 1,200 dog show in Canada. So been that long. We average out. We dropped a lot since COVID, obviously, like everybody else. But our big shows are now 500, 600, maybe 700, maybe. Because we're such a large country. It's hard for people to get together and travel with their dogs, obviously. But so we get pockets like Ontario and BC and the Maritimes, and we get pockets of events, but it's always localized. So
I think one of the things that we often look at different countries and we're kind of looking for ideas and what are they doing and how are they keeping their numbers up. Like we'd look at Norway and we go, wow, like Norway, their numbers are so big and how are they doing that? Or I judged in Bosnia recently. They had entries from 27 different countries at the show. And you kind of go, 27 different countries. Well, the problem we have is we're an island. So, yeah, we can get people over from the UK. We had a lot of people from the UK this weekend. We did have people from Belgium and we did have people from Slovakia, and you're kind of going, wow. But that's a major deal to get all the way over for those, And when the Irish Kennel Club ran the European show, like that was one of our big problems, trying to get people from Central Europe to come, Like in Norway,
sure.
They can come from all over. They can come from.
I think it's incredible for North American dog show people to realize, like Norway, how close Norway is to everything else around it. So they do draw from, we can't draw. Like we get American entries, but not as much as we used to. On the border shows, we used to get a good American entry. Now we don't. It's almost like the dollar has gotten in the way and other things have gotten in the way, and we just sort of tend to be localized again, which is fine.
Yeah. I think COVID's had a big hit on our dog show world. I think people realized that there was other things to do, and also their bank accounts seem to be very flush after 18 months of
doing nothing.
People moved on, dogs got old, society is changing.
We missed out on some dogs because of COVID, I think. We really did. Absolutely. And we saw them, but I think we missed out on the best of them. Dogs have a point, and then they
I think
lower.
I think it was also the best excuse of all time for people with dogs with weak temperaments. Oh, he's a COVID puppy.
This is a COVID puppy. Yeah, this is a COVID
really?
puppy.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a lot of that. And I think we still get it sometimes. Oh, well, sorry.
Yeah.
But he's 4 now. Come on.
His father was a COVID puppy.
You just passed it on to him. So you started judging in the 80s.
Yeah. And
how old were you when you first started judging? When you actually got that invitation to go judge?
So the very first time at lower level, I would have been 20.
Wow, that's young.
Yeah. And then my first Queen Star appointment was 89. So I know everybody watching in probably thinks I'm a 90s baby. So 89, I was 24 at the time. Yeah. And that was my first championship appointment. And I qualified all breeds in 2019. So 30 years exactly it took to go from...
Yeah, so like you started young, which probably shocked some people over here, but it still took you 30 years to achieve all breed status. It's funny how they perceive things, how some areas perceive things, that they go on about, even Canadians. But like, we're one of the quicker ones. We can do it in 11 years, I think. So, but... And it's interesting because we talk about education over here, and education is available to anybody who wants to learn. It depends on that student, as far as I'm concerned. So,
yeah, I think the important thing to remember, one of the important things to remember for everybody is we never stop learning.
Right? We
never stop learning.
Except for you and I.
Well, obviously, present company excluded, but and there would be plenty of people that say, "Oh, he's a know-all," but no, we always keep learning, and we always, if we're prepared to listen to people and talk to people, we can pick up so many different things. And let's face it, it's okay saying, "Oh, yes, I'm an all-breeds judge since 2019," but there's breeds I'm weak at that I need to keep furthering my knowledge in, and I don't think there's anybody who you can kind of go, they know everything about every breed. Not a chance.
Oh. Not a chance. I worked for a gentleman, and I guess it would be late 80s when I was in the States working for Bobby Stebbins. And he told me there's really no such thing as an all-breed judge. You can have your papers saying you're approved, but he said, no. He would even say, even Mrs. Clark, who we all thought was the best one, she'll tell you she doesn't know everything.
Yeah.
So you're always learning.
Yeah. And sometimes, I remember judging in Slovakia one time, and we were going out to judge on the morning of the show, and as we were walking out the door, he said, "Oh, by the way, Paul, you've got a student judge today." And I go, "Okay." I'm thinking, I wish they'd told me, I could have prepared. And I said, for what breed? And they said, for Newfoundlands. Okay. So anyway, I went out to do, and I'm like happy enough doing Newfoundlands. And this gentleman came in and he introduced himself. And I said, what's your own breed? And he says, oh yeah, Newfoundlands. I'm 40 years in Newfoundlands. And I'm chairman of the club. And I'm going, oh my God, this is going to be a disaster. And it was one of those days when everything I said to him just happened to go right.
Oh,
okay.
Good.
Because sometimes you can go over a dog and you can kind of go, oh, this dog is going to be exceptional on the move. And then you send it away and it's like a crashed car and you go, how did that happen? Because it feels correct and everything's in the right place and he's balanced. But this particular day anyway, this very nice man and so we go over dogs and I'd point out things to him and I'd say, no, we'll just watch for that now when we come back, as he's coming back towards us. The dog would do exactly what I was saying and the guy was going, wow. And then it was a little bit overkill then because he said to me when we finished the Newfoundlands, he says, can I stay and do the other breeds with you? And I go, no. But often with breeds, you're judging something and you think this is going to be fantastic on it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it goes up and down, and you're going, where did it all go wrong?
Yeah.
Or sometimes you'll often see the same. A little bit different from Canada, so not pro handlers, but you'll often see the same owner coming back with a dog, showing 3 or 4 dogs, and they all have the same issue, And you'd love to say to them, do you let your dogs go up and down the stairs at home all the time? Because they're all coming back with the same elbows out to me,
It's interesting you say that because I have certain handlers that you notice trends, and there'll be dogs that they've been hired to show, but same breed, and those dogs eventually do the same thing the first dog did. So I think a lot of it is handler error that people just pass down to their dogs. How they present them. It's a lot. Anyone can show a dog. It's not easy to present a dog.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such an important thing because I was thinking about dogs that I have recently. I was thinking about dogs that I've judged and like who were the ones that really kind of, really took my breath away. And when I think about them, it was all a package. So everything was a package. The dog.
Tell me some of those dogs, but just as long as they're not being shown now.
As long as they're not being shown now, okay. So there was the standard poodle that won Westminster. I judged it at Erie Shores as a junior.
Yeah,
just exceptional. But it was the whole package. It was the handler. It was the presentation, and something that we never see mentioned in breed standards: balance, attitude. The dog had an attitude. It had a presence about it. And that's so important. The Australian Shepherd that won Crufts last year, I gave it a group a couple of years previous. And again, handler, presentation, 100%. Attitude, soundness. Sometimes people will say, disillusioned people will often say, oh, it's the same old people win all the time. But it's the same old people who get their presentation right. It's the same old people who get their conditioning right. It's those same old people who know that's the puppy I want to run on because it's got qualities, and their training is good. And then the whole package becomes what a judge wants to see,
I agree 100%. We have people in this area that, like I was telling somebody earlier, familiarity breeds contempt. It really does. You see some person winning all the time, and rather than see how good they are, you start looking for their downfalls. But same with certain dogs. I always say this dog, we see this dog every weekend, so we're kind of spoiled. So certain people start not to pick on it, but look for its downfalls. If that dog just showed up that weekend, we'd all be like, oh my God, see that dog, how beautiful it is. But because we see it every weekend and we get to see its butt every weekend is behind, then we start to get contempt for it. And people have to keep things in perspective sometimes. It's hard, it's human nature.
Yeah. I think as well, two things I'm going to say there. One is, I think our show scene has changed over the years. So we don't so much nowadays have an appreciation. There's not so many stock people who would look at dogs and say, oh, I'd like to introduce his dog into my line because he can give me something I have. Now it's more a case of I have to beat that dog, as opposed to appreciating a breed and
appreciating that exhibit.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that goes, unfortunately, is missing. It's too much competition now.
It's become such an ego-based sport. It really has,
Yeah. People often say to me, "Oh, why do we do this?" And I'm going, it's because we're not good at any other sports. But it is ego-based, and I'd like to see us appreciate. I worked with a young novice judge recently in the ring, and this particularly good dog was shown, and I got the dog to come back afterwards, and I said to the lady, I said, just go over this dog again and just appreciate it. Now, she'd given it best of breed and whatever, but I said, this is your opportunity to go over a really, really good Lakeland Terrier and appreciate the qualities of it, and I think that's one of the hang-ups I used to have about our lower level shows.
When you mean lower level, are those open shows? Is that what you mean?
Open shows, yeah. Okay. So our rules in Ireland for open shows used to be, until quite recently, you couldn't show a champion at an open show. We now allow them to be shown, but they don't compete. Yeah, so they compete just to go forward for best champion in show. They don't compete for best of breed. But the problem I had with the old system was we had new judges, and they were nervous, okay? And we were giving them novice dogs, generally with novice handlers, who were equally as nervous. So now we've got three lots of nerves going on. We've got the nervous dog with a nervous handler under a nervous judge. And that's a recipe for disaster.
Well, there's no question. It's a good way of looking at it too. So,
and then it also meant sometimes these people were judging inferior dogs. There were lesser dogs. There were dogs that couldn't get their title. So if you got a 4-year-old at an open show, this was a dog that could never get its title.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, what happens
is... that's just an import, right?
Yeah. But, sometimes we go to shows and as judges and I listen to Jean and my wife and Kelly, my daughter, and we'll talk about dogs that we've judged, and we often say, oh, that's my Irish setter. My Irish setters after getting to CC at Crooks. And it might be a dog that we judged 6 months ago. It becomes my Irish setter, And so the same
happens
thing
here too.
Yeah. And so the same thing with, just healthy competition between the three of us here, Oh, that was my, But the same thing then comes down to that novice judge, because that 4-year-old dog who's standing on its own was her best of breed. That's my Belgian Shepherd, my 4-year-old Belgian Shepherd, best of breed. Unfortunately, it's a 4-year-old that's maybe not good enough quality. And I think it's important that the novice judges get the opportunity to put their hands on good dogs. And when we organise seminars with the Belgian Shepherds, you're kind of supposed to always have a lesser quality one there. But really what we do, you have to have a minimum of 3 dogs at our hands-on seminars for the judges to go over. We'll try and have 5 or 6, and we'll basically say to them, listen, you can place them any way you want because they're 5 really good dogs or 6 really good dogs. You're going to put your hands on dogs here that don't come back and say, well, that one's crap, because you've got 5 good dogs. So don't worry about what you put 1, 2, 3, 4. Just give us your reasons. And I think that's more beneficial for novice people to get the opportunity to come along and put their hands on good dogs and realise, what it is that the virtues,
Right, that makes them the good dog. That's another good way. So you've been judging all over the world. We touched on it earlier when you brought up SEBA. What what dogs have made their marks. We all have this bank in our head that dogs, it doesn't even have to be dogs you've judged, Paul. It could be dogs that you've seen or admired, or like I said, we have this bank in our head that we like. I have Irish setters in my head. I have English cockers in my head that I lean on sometimes. Do you have that?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it can be various reasons why dogs come back to you as special. So years ago, I judged in Finland, and it was going to be my first time judging English bulldogs outside of Ireland. And English bulldogs are, you know, a lot of times we say it's everything you don't want to see in a dog, you know, but they can be a difficult breed to judge. And I remember, you know, I would have judged a lot in Finland at the time, and there was always this guy with a suit who came in with best of breed, always had the best of breed bulldog. You know, I'm there judging, and I've got bulldogs coming up later on. I see the guy with the suit, and I go, that's a good. He always has best of breed in bulldogs. He's got great bulldogs. Anyway, so when the bulldogs started, you know, I got through the early classes and came to champion dog, and in came the guy in the suit. But this other guy came in with just a t-shirt on, and he had the most stunning English bulldog. And I went, wow. And it suddenly just transformed for me. You know, I've been reading breed standards and looking at photos, but here it was live in the flesh. And I go, this dog is absolutely stunning. And I couldn't take my eyes off him, and I gave him best of breed. And Jean was judging with me at the same show, and it was actually the last breed I had to do on the day, and Jean was just finished. And she'd come over to my ring before she went for lunch, and I said, God, you have to have a look at this bulldog. This bulldog is stunning. And we looked and admired this bulldog. And in those days, what they used to do in Finland was when the judges came to sit at the group table, they would hand them all the newspaper, whatever, Kyra, I think it was called, used to give them the newspaper, the dog newspaper. And so it was handed to me at the group table. I said, I don't believe it. And she says, what? That bulldog was the number one bulldog in Finland last year. And I'm going, here he's on the front of the top dog competition. And, you know, there I am thinking I found something. You know, I can't tell anyone I found this dog because he's already a top dog.
Right.
But I just
you didn't miss him. That's the main thing. You
well,
didn't miss him.
God, touch wood. And the great thing about that dog was he came back to the UK. Oh, he came to the UK and became a champion in the UK and represented the UK in the Eukanuba Challenge.
Okay,
some years later. And I always thought for any dog from abroad to come to the home of the breed and to achieve that was some achievement. But I also remember going back and, you know, you talk about owning, the dog becomes your bulldog or whatever, but I remember going back many times to Finland, and sometimes in the summer when it would be quite hot, and seeing that dog and the dog winning the group, and then the owner sending the dog into the ring on a hot day with a child handler to compete in child handling. And the other judges around the table going, what are they doing? They want to keep that dog fresh for best in show. But this was just such a healthy dog. And he came in and he performed with the child, and then he come in for best in show and he performed in best in show. And that was a really, really healthy English bulldog and a beautiful English bulldog. And he was a dog that made a big impression on me all those years.
Yeah, I can see that making the bank. Yeah.
Yeah, for all different reasons. For his health as well as other things, you know.
We've had such a controversy about these breeds and their health. So when something like that sticks out to you, you can see him doing the job. Well, not his job, but showing in conditions that most bulldogs couldn't do. Right. So it's an eye opener. So
yeah, well, we have the same issues in Ireland. We've had our vets wanting to ban the pugs and crossbreed pugs with beagles to produce an Irish pug, and I'm going, oh. Yes, there are problems, but I think one of the issues is, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but when you go into a veterinary practice here, and the girl at reception, usually a young girl, and she'll say, "Okay, what breed of dog is it?" You know, and someone says, "Oh, it's a French bulldog." Now, it could be a French bulldog crossed with every other mongrel in town, but to that person, it's a French bulldog, or it was sold by a puppy farmer to her as a French bulldog, and the girl on reception isn't going to question that, and that dog gets recorded as a French bulldog, and then any issues that are with that are then credited to a French bulldog, and it's and unfortunately in the pedigree dog world, it's our pedigree breeders who are doing all these health tests and trying to breed the very best dogs, who are the easy target for the anti-dog brigade, and I do think, and the vets go against our pedigree breeders, and they go against our pedigree breeds, and yet I'm not going to say they're responsible, but they're partly responsible for some of the promotion of, for some of the problems that we have. There's not enough checking of the dogs at the time. Is it a French bulldog or is it a crossbreed? Is it a pedigree bulldog? And that's one of the things that really riles me is, and like we have, so your puppy mills, we have puppy farms. And Ireland for many years was known as the puppy farm capital of Europe. And, it's a sad state of affairs. And I would love to see our government put some restrictions. And we want all our pedigree breeders to health test. So why aren't these puppy farmers who pay a license to our government, why are they not made to have health tests? Why are they not inspected more? Anyway, let's keep it upbeat.
Yeah, but that's an issue, and it needs to be dealt with, and I'm glad you brought it up. So,
yeah.
So, where are you judging next?
So I go to Lithuania in April. The first weekend in April, I'm in Lithuania, in Kaunas. And then Kelly is actually getting married at the end of April in
this cute guy from the dog shows.
He's a cute, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. And he's actually a bulldog breeder. Would you believe that? He's a nice guy. So that's the end of April, and then we kind of get into full swing then. And I'm back I'm in Canada in June and July this year.
Oh, good. Where are you in June and July?
June is Vancouver Island.
No, I won't see you there.
Okay. That's for Jean. And then July is Quebec.
Well, I might see you there. Might see you in Quebec. You never know.
Yeah.
And you're in America this year as well. You're in Warrenton? Yeah. You said Warrenton?
So the Amana cluster, which is the end of August, early September, and then the Hunt County cluster, which is the end of October, early November.
Yeah, one's in Virginia. Where's the other one?
Yeah, the other one is in Iowa.
Iowa, okay. Iowa. I've driven through Iowa. I've never shown or judged in Iowa. It looks like I always think of Field of Dreams. That's from Iowa. Is this heaven? No, this is Iowa. So, did you ever see that movie, Field of Dreams?
Yeah. Well, we have actually, there's a good pal of mine who lives in Iowa now, and he was, you talk about people having an influence on you when you were younger, and he was a geneticist. It's easy for you to say. He was a geneticist, and he was a Great Dane breeder, and he moved to.
He was from Ireland, and he moved to America?
Yeah. He was from Cork in Ireland, and he moved to the States many years ago now. Neil O'Sullivan, and he handles and shows Great Danes and Irish soft-coated Wheaten Terriers. But he's based in Iowa, so maybe we'll come across each other when we're there.
Oh, I'm sure you will. It'll be fun to see your old friend.
Yeah, but he was. I loved Great Danes when I was younger. I always fancied having a Great Dane, and Jean used to bribe me, actually. So Jean used to say to me, I want to do something with the house. I want to put an extension on the house. No, we don't need to do that. Oh, yeah, I'd like to do that. And, if we did that, you could have a great day. Okay. So we do the extension on the house. And we do the extension on the house, and I get a bull mastiff. Like, not a great time, I got a bull mastiff. That's, it's good size, So I've always wanted a great day. But going back to those days with Neil, and he used to just show me like books and books and books of Great Danes, and he'd show me lines of dogs, and he'd say, this dog, and that was his son and his grandson and his great grandson. And really an education, and also to learn to look past colour. Yes. So Neil at the time used to show a very lightly marked Harlequin, and it was sometimes hard to see the Dane there, but that was one of the things he would have taught me, to look past the colour in Danes, and the same applies to many other breeds. You often get handlers that will show a dog one way, and you're kind of going, oh, the colour mustn't be good on the other side, So that's a good education. And one of the other breeders was a famous Schipperke breeder, Francis Howard Williams. He was based in North Wales, and I went to see him one time. We were going to have a Schipperke from him, and he had the most amazing setup. Like, he lived in a big hall in Kilcane Hall in Mold in North Wales. But you went out to the courtyard, and he had kennels all around, runs all around, dog bitch, and probably 40 to 50 adult Schipperkes, and he'd say, which was the favorite one that I had, say, oh, Dandy Jack, and oh, well, that's a Dandy Jack son, that's a Dandy Jack grandson, and this is a Dandy Jack great grandson running around your feet here. Oh, like, what an education! We
don't have those large kennels anymore. At least over here, we don't. And they were instrumental in breeds. Absolutely, and
at the time, people used to say, "Oh, he's a puppy farmer." He wasn't a puppy farmer, he was far from a puppy farmer. He had such a wealth of knowledge and such a quantity and quality of dogs for you to go there and learn about a breed. And like, the funny thing was, we had a number of dogs from Frank and David, and we always used to laugh, because every time he'd go to Frank, he'd say, take that dog to Ireland, and we never paid for a dog. And I remember the first time we had a litter of Schipperkes, and I said to Jim, we don't know how much to charge for them, because we've never ever bought one. Because Frank used to say, take that dog. Oh, and there's a nice bitch, you could, which was amazing. Like, for us, a great opportunity at the time,
That's the way a lot of times it was.
Yeah. And from those lines, we bred our Coco Chanel, Revlock Coco Chanel. She was the world winner in 2006 and in 2010. And she went on, lived to be 18 years of age, So,
it's a wonderful breed. It really is. I'm very fond of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a Canadian twist on it now for you. Being a Belgian breeder, did you have any interaction with our Skip Stambridge?
Absolutely, yeah. We had a great relationship with Skip, and actually Skip was instrumental in bringing myself and Jean to Canada for the first time, which was many years ago. Renaissance.
Renaissance.
Yeah, 2005.
Okay,
that would have been our first time to ever.
That was on the West Coast.
Yeah. So that was our first time.
Was Skip on the panel with you, or?
Yes, he was. Yeah, and a larger than life character, and fantastic with the Belgian Shepherds. Yeah.
Oh my God! I always say, because the way he approaches dogs, no dog ever reacts to him. He was just so not matter of factly, but he almost he kind of made friends with them a bit, but then all of a sudden he just touched them enough that he knew what was there, and then he never pushed them to the point where dogs reacted to him. I learned a lot just watching him, and I used to get in trouble because I remember being on a panel with him before I was licensed. I was on a United Kennel Club panel with him. I used to impersonate him a little bit. He'd get so angry, I'd turn to my side and I'd poke myself. And I remember him stopping and watching, judging one day, and he did the exact same thing right back to me. So he was a lot of fun. Like,
and he was a big, he was a big man as well. So
yeah,
to think that dogs were always accepting of such a big person, I remember some years ago.
Difference.
Yeah, some years ago we had no names, no scandal. So we had this Irish judge who had a dinner the night before a show, was talking about some of the large guarding breeds. So some of the Russian breeds, the Central Asians and the South Russian Shepherds, and people were saying, "Oh, well, you never touch these breeds." And he declared at the dinner the night before that, if I can't touch these dogs, I'm going to put them out of my ring. So, as it turned out, the following day he was judging in the ring right beside me. And I was going to start judging with Old English Sheepdog, and he was going to start judging with South Russian Shepherds. Yeah, this is a true story. And so the lady in my ring, the steward, said, "Are we ready to go?" And I said, "No." I said, "We're just going to wait for 2 minutes." I said, "My friend here is going to judge South Russian Shepherds, and I want to see how he gets on. We might need the medics." And the first dog came in, and he was a small man. And the first dog came in, and he went straight up, straight in, opened the mouth himself, and I said, "That's just unbelievable." But I think he wasn't a threat because he was a smaller person. I was very confident, so he didn't have any, whereas if you go in a little bit, and the funny thing about that was, so I turned around and I started judging Old English Sheepdogs. And the first dog that came in was a baby puppy Old English Sheepdog. So they're as cute as anything, okay?
Sure. Stuffed animal.
Yeah. I judged this little Old English Sheepdog. Lovely, what a lovely little puppy. And off it went. And when it came back after moving, you just kind of put your head down to it and, kind of went to give him a little kiss. As I walked away, I kind of gone off to finish my critique. I thought, I just don't know. I just kind of caught a toot there. Maybe it was just, accidentally, And the next thing, this cute little 5-month-old puppy, Old English Sheepdog, turned on the handler. I went, "Fuck!" So I stopped kissing puppies then. But,
it's a good idea.
Yeah. So I thought there I was looking for trouble in the next ring, and I had it in my own ring.
In your own ring. So are you still actively breeding, you and Jean?
Yeah. We have a litter of puppies here at the moment, 5 weeks old, Groenendales. It's actually a repeat mating. We did an immediate repeat because the female, her first litter was 10 months ago, and we decided to do a repeat straight away with her. There's the same mating, and as it turns out, they're 5 weeks old now, and one of the previous litter got the reserve CC at Crufts from puppy class, so special puppy class. Wow. So that was a nice win, and he got placed in the group at the Irish Kennel Club show as well. So,
very good.
Yeah,
so it's good that actively breeding. I think because I'm still breeding a little bit and still showing a little bit. I think it keeps things in perspective when you start judging to actually still be in the ring and being competitive. I think it lets you evaluate your competition better. It's funny how things change. I remember as a handler, you would always, if a certain dog was consistently beating you, you're always looking at that dog thinking, how's that dog beating me? How's that dog? Now, as in the position I'm in now, you recognize why that dog was beating you or why that dog was always a competitive dog against you. And I think it's important to stay in the sport where you started, even though you are now adjudicating.
Yeah. and it keeps you grounded as well.
I agree.
And again, you're all the time learning, and even as a breeder, I mean, I think one of the when we introduced that judges' education system in 2016 for Ireland, and we called it the pathway to judging. And now I look and I go, we should have a pathway to breeding as well, because we just let people loose and let them do whatever they want to do. And I think now we need to look at introducing a pathway to breeding.
I agree, because I think mentoring has really gone by the wayside a lot in our sport. And I think of people that my parents and myself leaned on. The new people don't have those people. We've become so elitist in some areas that people don't want the competition. And
also, like, knowledge is power, and so many people don't want to share that knowledge.
Right.
If I don't tell people how to do this, nobody else can do it, and I'm the important one. But I think it's vitally important that we share this knowledge, and and I love when people come to me and say, "Oh, can you teach me about the Belgian Shepherd?" Or whatever, or give me some tips on this.
I already told you, when I'm going for herding, I'm coming to you. You're going to teach me. There's no Skip here to teach me. So.
Well, we've claimed you as Irish now, so you're the top handler.
I'm there. Look, see, I've got this race. It's right there, Paul. It's right there. Cool. That's great. So I think we've touched on everything. Is there anything else? Is there anything you want to say to the people out here that are looking forward to seeing you over here again?
No, the only thing I would say, and this would be for maybe anyone who's starting off judging or whatever, is, so my background profession-wise was bartending. I was a bartender, and I ran pubs and clubs and hotels and everything else. And the big thing when we were training was to break down the barriers with somebody who came in. So a customer coming into the bar, you broke down the barrier by, "Hello, how are you?" And that was, and so suddenly people felt that they could interact with you. And I think that's very important as well from a judging point of view. I think we need to make that environment a little bit more friendly for people. That you can say to an exhibitor, "Hello, how are you? How old is your dog?" And it's not for the wanting to know how old the dog is. And sometimes someone will say, "Oh, he's," and I say, "Just guess."
Just guess. Give me that. And the handler's going to say 2 the whole time. Handler, he's 2.
Yeah, and it's just to break down that barrier with, if an exhibitor is nervous, and also sometimes when you're judging bigger breeds, it also makes the dog a little bit more relaxed in that.
Oh, there's no question.
There's an interaction here between, my owner and this strange man, and I often say as well, the exhibitor is the paying customer. Without the exhibitor, we've got no dog shows, we've got no judging appointments, nothing. And we need the exhibitor to go away and feel that they've had a good experience. So The judge liked my dog, the judge was nice to me. Yeah, okay, he placed me 15 to 15, but he was a nice guy, and I think that's very important that we, I'd like to think that when people come and show under me or others, that they go away and go, "Well, I got a fair crack at the whip. The guy was nice to me. He paid attention to my dog. He was nice with my dog." And I think that is something that we need to get into the show scene a little bit more, because we all have a problem of, where's the next generation? Where are the people coming along? And that's one of the battles that we're always going to have. I also think that we have a little bit of a kind of a snobbery, in that we look at people with labradoodles and cockapoos, and we kind of go, we frown on them. And I think these are people that we need to get into our kennel clubs. I know that sounds strange, but I think we need to have them on the inside. We need to bring them in and give them the options of sports that they can participate in. And maybe they're the next generation who will, with their next dog, they'll say, "Oh, do you know, this time I'm going to get a poodle because I want to show. Or I'm going to get a Cocker Spaniel because I want to show." And I think that's what we need to do. And, I hear people frown and give out. I mean, I'm a dog lover. So if it's a cockapoo and I like it, I like it because it's a dog. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can't all be world beaters and they can't all be fantastic, best in show winners. But I'm a dog lover. So first and foremost, I'm a dog lover. Yes, I promote pedigree dogs. I breed pedigree dogs. I judge pedigree dogs. But, I think we need to be more for all. I remember that was the pedigree ad at the time we were over for Westminster. We're for all dogs. And I thought that's a great line. And that's what we should be. We should be for all dogs,
No, I agree with you. Well, we tend to ostracize those people. And you're right. They could be the next great German Shepherd breeder that we've ostracized,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I don't mean to pump your tires, though, but when you're talking about making people happy, I don't know if you read in the comments on your judging in Canada, you were nothing but positive of your comments. I never read one bad comment about you. Everybody enjoyed your judging and your style and your attitude.
But can I tell you that cost me a fortune?
Well, it doesn't matter how you got it, Paul. I think it was important for all of us to see. We had a great time.
Well, that's nice to hear, but I mean, there's lots of really good things that happen when you go to dog shows. You just have to kind of look for them. Like, right. I mean, at Old York, we had Alana Miles' sister showed under me. Alana Miles, the rock singer, and she showed under me. That's unbelievable. And I did a show in Bosnia recently, and they called it the Olympic Dog Show, because the show was held in Sarajevo, where the Olympic winter sports was held. So I posted on Facebook that I was now claiming to be an Irish Olympian because I had judged at this show, and bizarrely, a lady showed under me who had represented Poland 3 times in the Olympics. Wow. Showing Chinese crested dogs. And you're just going like, wow. And that's the one thing about our sport. You never know who you are going to be in the company of.
That's right.
And of course, like, we have our president of Ireland is a Bernese lover. And we were very fortunate.
Know that.
Yeah. Didn't know that. Yeah, Michael D. Higgins. And we were very fortunate. We introduced some years back the Golden Paw in Ireland, which is for hero dogs, where we reward dogs who have, helped in society or been involved in some exceptional event. And we decided some years ago to give a posthumous award to President Higgins's Bernese dog, who had passed away, because he was always seen when there was visiting dignitaries to the president's house here in Ireland. The dog would always be seen with the visiting royalty, So he was a great ambassador for pedigree dogs, great ambassador for dogs.
Yeah, for sure.
And he gave a posthumous award, and President Higgins invited us to actually go and visit Áras an Uachtaráin, which is the house of the president, here in the Phoenix Park, and to meet his new Bernese mountain dog. So this was great for the Irish Kennel Club. And of course, it's kind of high profile for pedigree dogs. So all of this is what we want, and I'd like to see more of that kind of stuff. I'd like to see kind of kennel clubs kind of coming together, because we have a huge anti-dog lobby, and I think we need to work together to promote our dogs, show what all these dogs are doing in society, pedigree dogs, non-pedigree dogs, but how important they are to everybody. The dogs that help people that haven't got sight, the people that have social anxiety, but they've got a dog there to support them. And even for us as individuals, to have a dog to go home to at the end of the day, it's so important. So I'd love to see us work together to promote that a little bit more, and to kind of fend off this anti-dog lobby, because too often I think we work against ourselves. I often say I think they'll win because we fight from within. We're fighting over who won the Green Star last week, and we're fighting over this dog because, maybe he was lame. And you're kind of going, you're pressing a button on Facebook and you're showing millions of people what you think, as opposed to, let's just keep it positive. Let's keep our dog scene positive, all aspects of our dog scene, and let's fight this anti-dog lobby.
That's a perfect sentiment. We're going to end with that one. That's perfect. All right. Well, thank you, my friend. I look forward to seeing you again. And
We got quite serious there, Will, didn't I, for a minute?
you did, because when we were here and when you were judging here, you were serious, but there was also a light side to us. Like when you were talking about working in the restaurant business, the hotel business, how you used to approach customers. I saw a bit of that in you, even when we went out to dinner a couple of times. How you dealt with the staff of the restaurant. You were great with them, so you made them at ease, and
Yeah.
I can see it now. I can see it now.
Yeah.
So, all right, my friend.
Well, of course, we nearly had romance in that last restaurant.
And nearly, it was close.
Hello, Paul. That's a story for another day, another program.
Yeah. Different channel.
Yeah.
That's true. But we had lots of fun. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I look forward to seeing you, and thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thanks, Will.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. That was great. It was very informative. I'm happy that we got to get this together because I had so much fun when you were here. If you like what you're seeing here, everybody, make sure you press the like, share, and subscribe button, and I'll see you somewhere down the road.